Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our monthly ACE meetup. Today's topic is Director and Studio, and we have Amir Trujillo from the Customer Success Management team here to go through a brief presentation before we dive into the cloud Q&A with the rest of the panelists. Feel free to go ahead and start typing in your questions at any point throughout the presentation. For any future state or roadmap questions that we may not be able to address here live, don't forget that you can always reach out to your Customer Success Manager for more information. Also, keep in mind that the recording will be available on demand on the ACE registration page in about a week or so. So without further ado, take it away, Amir.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for your time during this presentation. As Citrix admin in the cloud, you may have a few questions. How can I administer my infrastructure? What tools do I have for my daily basis activities? How can I troubleshoot user sessions, monitor my environment, be proactive or reactive to different situations, and so forth? You are not alone. You can use the Manage and Monitor consoles to deploy application and virtual desktops, configure the look and feel of your environment, and monitor what is going on your Citrix deployment. Let's start with our talking points. Today we will be discussing about machine catalogs, delivery groups, applications, administrators, host connections, dashboard, trends, and alerts. So, having said that, let's start. But first things first. What's the Manage or Studio console? Citrix Manage console is the console that allows you to configure and manage your virtual apps and desktop site from a single pane of glass. From the console, you have full control over your entire site and everything in it, including but not limited to machine catalogs, delivery groups, virtual apps and desktops, machines, and a lot more. After you have enabled your virtual apps and desktop service on the Workspace console, everything is going to be set to start managing your infrastructure. Manage console also allows you to execute some troubleshooting tasks. You can run several self-diagnostic tests on your host connections, delivery groups, and machine catalogs. Depending on the size of your site, the number of machines and policies, this will take at least a couple of minutes. When done, it will let you know about any issues or errors that it might have found. Also, from the console, you can see how many users are logged onto which machine catalog. You can restart or shut down machines, send out messages to log in users, and of course, the ability to log off users if needed. Manage console is also used to put machines or machine catalogs in maintenance mode. Now that you have an overview of the console, let's talk about the components. You will find a machine catalog. They are collections of physical or virtual machines managed as a single entity called a session machine catalog. Many companies create a master image or template on their host, and they use it as a whole image to spin up virtual machines through machine creation services or provisioning services. Also, in addition to virtual machines, don't forget that the catalog can also contain physical machines. After you create a machine catalog, tests run automatically to ensure that it is configured correctly. When the test is complete, you can view a test report. Let's move to delivery groups. A delivery group is a collection of machines selected from one or more machine catalogs. The delivery group specifies which user can use those machines and the applications available for those users. Begin by creating a delivery group. Later, you can change the initial settings and configure additional ones. As part of the delivery group's properties, you will find a couple of properties or features. Application pre-launch, application lingering, and the latest and greatest feature called autoscale. Let's talk about all of them. Application pre-launch. With this feature, a session is launched when the user logs onto the Citrix Workspace app, so applications are available sooner. With application lingering, lingering sessions remain active after all applications are closed. You can specify how long will remain active based on time or load on machines. On the auto scale one, here you will be able to select and escalate your schedule and your infrastructure. You can set the minimum number of running machines during the day using either percentage of total capacity or an exact number of machines. And this is for cost reduction and improve your availability. Now, the machines. These are virtual or physical machines you previously configured to create your machine catalog. And I'll list some interesting points to keep in mind. First, a machine catalog can be used in more than one delivery group. However, a machine can be only used in one delivery group. That's an important one for your architecture deployments. Second, a delivery group can use more than one machine catalog. Just keep in mind that catalogs must contain the same machine types, like same version of operating system, desktop, or remote PC access. In other words, let's keep it simple. You can't mix machine types in a delivery group or in a machine catalog. Also, you cannot create a delivery group containing desktop OS machines from a machine catalog configured for static desktops and machine from a machine catalog configured for random desktops. And last but not least, each machine in a remote PC access machine catalog is automatically associated with a delivery group. Now, let's talk about applications. And this part of the console displays the applications that were discovered in a machine created from the master image. Choose one or more applications to add to the delivery group, and you're done. You can also add or create applications manually. You'll need to provide the path to the executable, working directory, optional command line arguments, and display names for administrators and users. Some important points to consider. By default, applications you add are placed in a folder named Applications. Folders can make it easier to manage a large number of applications. You can specify different folder when you add the application. However, it's easier to manage folders later. Just keep it simple. Also, if you publish two applications with the same name to the same users, change it. You can change it on the properties of the application. Otherwise, you will see duplicate names in Workspace app. Now, let's talk about an interesting topic, which is administration. And this part of the console offers the flexibility to match how your organization wants to delegate administration activities using roles and object-based control. Delegated administration accommodates deployments of all sizes and allows you to configure more permissions granularity as your deployment grows in complexity. This delegated administration uses three main concepts: administrators, roles, and scopes. Here in the slide, you will see all the different flavors that we have and we will be playing with your roles, with your scopes, depending on the needs of your company. Administrators are individual persons or people identified by their Active Directory account. Each administrator is associated with one or more role and scope pairs. Roles: a role represents a job function and has defined permissions associated with it. For example, the delivery group administrator role has permissions such as create delivery group and remove desktop from delivery group. The good thing is that an administrator can have multiple roles for a site, so a person could be a delivery group administrator and a machine catalog administrator at the same time. And the scopes: it represents a collection of objects. Scopes are used to group objects in a way that is relevant to your organization. For example, let's say the set of delivery groups used by sales team. Now it's time to talk about policies. Policies are collections of settings that define how sessions, bandwidth, and security are managed for a group of users, devices, or connection types. You can apply policy settings to physical or virtual machines or users. You can apply settings to individual users at the local level or security groups in Active Directory. And the Manage console uses Comparison Wizard to help administrators to compare all the different policies that you are applying to your environment. And don't forget that you can administer your policies through the GPO console in your Active Directory. Now, let's talk about a host connection. What is it? A host connection, you can configure this, including selecting the connection type from among the support hypervisor and cloud services. This is where you're going to be connecting your hypervisor, being on the cloud or on-prem with the Citrix cloud. And something important, you can provide full administrator under your subscription on the cloud or on-prem solution, or you can provide a custom access with some requirements from Citrix with specific permissions. And like an overview, just good to know, we provide access to cloud like Azure, AWS, Google, and for on-prem, Citrix Hypervisor, VMware, or Hyper-V. Now, let's jump to Monitor with the old name Director. And the Monitor console is a management console that allows you administrators to control and monitor session details, disconnect or restore sessions, customize trend reports, control user sessions, and set alerts associated with company policies. Monitor allows you Citrix administrators to set up the console for unified deployment, monitoring, or configure a custom interface that provides help desk staff with resources to troubleshoot user-specific issues. As you see in the slide, Director User Monitor includes reports on login duration, concurrent sessions, and resource usage of specific applications and desktops. Virtual apps and desktops customers can also review network connectivity details. Director is based on several components technologies, like its Cloud Connector, Virtual Delivery Agent, Monitor Service. With all of them, collect all the deployment information available on it. Here you can see that in your console, you're going to have the 3 different tabs, which are the dashboard, trends, filters, and configure. So let's talk about a little bit of them. On the dashboard, you will have all the information about real time on your sessions, your connections, if you have any failure, what connections were successful, what not. So you can have an overview of what's going on your infrastructure. On the trends, you can filter and you can get information about your sessions, failures, login performance, custom reports, and application failures. This is important because here is where you will be dealing on your daily basis to get information about any issue that you have on your environment. You can create your own reports for a daily basis, weekly, monthly, or even the year. So this is an important one. There's a lot of options to select. You can filter, you can do it for a specific period of time, and so forth. So there's a lot of information that you can use to be proactive and avoid any kind of issues. Also, on the part of filters, you can filter information based on machines, sessions, and connection. And something important here is the machines filter, where you will have information about failed to start machines. If your VDA is stuck on a boot, sometimes we schedule a reboot during the night, and then we realize that on the next day it's unregistered, our VDA, and we can monitor all that kind of things through this console. Also, we will have information about sessions and connections. Something important is that we can create alerts on this console that we're going to get in our email. We're going to have all the warnings, errors, and all the tools that will allow you to keep healthy your infrastructure. You can set alerts for your entire site, for a specific delivery group, kind of users, and it will be divided in critical, warning, or healthy environment. So you have enough information to work with and to keep your infrastructure up to date. And last but not least, there is a feature called Probe. This Probe is an agent that you install on your VDAs and will allow you to test if an application or a desktop is working fine. So you will be sure that in a specific application, at the beginning of the day, it's launching properly instead receiving calls from end users complaining about applications or virtual desktop not available. So this is the overview of a studio and a monitor console, and feel free to ask any question. And that's it.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Amir. And before diving into the questions, I do have a couple of quick reminders. So first, don't forget to check out the new and improved Cloud Success Center. This is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your cloud resources, including expert-led videos, prerequisite checklists, even build guides, and more. So definitely be sure to check this out. It's a great resource for you. And second, I want to shamelessly plug our upcoming events in August. So, of course, we will still have our ACE meetup per usual, and the August topic is going to be authentication. But in addition, we also have a tips webinar in August, and that's going to be led by Ryan McClure and George Carubula, and that's going to focus on making the most of your hybrid rights. So especially those of you who have hybrid rates, I think it would be worthwhile, and be sure to check out both of these events next month. Mark your calendars. All right, and now the part you have all been waiting for. So joining Amir today on our expert panel, we have Brian Josephat, a principal consultant, Angelo Saraceno, a product manager, and Christopher Curatolo, a principal escalation engineer. So let's go ahead and dive into the questions. All right, the first question, let's see. All right, someone says, now that I have this great data, what should I do about the machine and connection failures identified in the data? All right, Chris, do you want to take that one?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So within Citrix Cloud, we have something called the Monitor tab under the Apps and Desktop service. And one thing that the admin could do is, as they review the session trends, you could look at session creation failures as well as the connection creation failures. And what happens is when users fail to log on, Monitor is going to log a failure reason. And what we'll do is we'll actually link the group to the article that outlines what those failure reasons are and exactly what the admin should do to mitigate those failure reasons. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So next one for Brian. Can we pull in alerts to Cloud Director from on-premises components?
Hey, Michelle, great question. So as of, I think it was May or June, but as of the last couple months, yes, we do now have that capability. So what we can do is the Cloud Director can pull in information from on-premise hypervisors, so specifically Citrix Hypervisor and VMware vSphere. And with that, we can monitor a variety of different parameters about the hypervisor health, from the CPU usage and memory usage, network usage, to things like the host connection, power state, as well as understanding whether the hypervisor connection is unavailable. So a variety of different on-prem hypervisor status items that you can pull from into Cloud Director.
All right, perfect. All right, next up for Amir, what is needed to configure Cloud Director alerting?
Sure. Actually, by default, there is some alerts configured for you. So there's no need to do anything. You just have to go to your alerts tab and start digging on what you want to know about any error or failure. In addition to that, you can create your own alerts, and it is a very straightforward process. There's a tab inside that console to create policies depending on the size or the library group or user policies. So you have different options to specify, like how many users are logged on to your infrastructure, or what is the logon time. If we're talking about your server infrastructure, you can get some information about the CPU usage, memory, connection failure rate, or in addition to that, you can specify if all these thresholds for get a warning or the critical one, so you can be proactive. And this is something that it will help you to be proactive and start troubleshooting as well, depending on the case. Thank you.
All right, so going back to Chris, which view and director will give a Citrix administrator a list of current policies applied to the user session?
Thanks. So what happens is when a user launches a session, the admin could use what's called the user search capability of Citrix Cloud Director. And what will happen is when they search for the user, you'll see the list of all active sessions for that user. And by actually clicking into that session, you'd see the session details pane on the right side of the screen. And with that, you would see all the active policies assigned to that user in that session. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so next one we'll send to Angelo. So Citrix Studio in the cloud appears or behaves like the MMC version, but worse. Launching Studio can be hit or miss, where it just spins loading to the point of needing to use a different browser. Clicking the Do Not Show again for the welcome screens at each section may take 3 to 4 clicks to register. Is there a plan or project to update this?
Yes, thanks, Michelle. So currently on the Studio roadmap, we are working on revamping the Studio console. So at the moment, you probably are seeing the HTML5 receiver. It'll connect you to a Studio session. So we are under, basically have a plan to replace it with what we call a native web studio. And it's going to, remove the 3-minute spin-up time. It's going to allow you to do your action significantly quicker because it's a native web console. And then in addition, the Studio team also has a bunch of performance tasks that they're going to try to get improvements for. So we understand that we also have admins who might have hundreds, maybe even thousands of different groups and catalogs. And we understand that the loading for that has also been pretty slow. And we foresee with the new web console, the performance is going to be improving. I can't give any timelines currently, but I can say that, we're hard at work at it and we're currently testing it. So yeah, stay tuned.
Perfect. All right. Next one for Amir. How can Citrix Cloud Monitor help me proactively understand the health of my environment?
Yep. You have a ton of different possibilities here, starting with the dashboard page where you will be able to see information about your current sessions, your average login duration or any error that you have on your machines, your VDAs, your VDIs. So from this single pane of glass, you're going to have a full visibility of what is going on your infrastructure. you can take decisions with that. You can see all this behavior with the statistics and see, okay, my peak hours are these during the day, and I'm seeing that my resources are not being enough to solve all my user requirements. So I can start discussing about capacity planning or any potential failure on my infrastructure. Also, I can use these trends that will provide me some information about local performance, failures, and that specific part of the failures will be related with the applications or connections. So we can start pointing to the correct direction using this information. So keep in mind that this will provide you enough information as a starting point to start digging on your infrastructure. So you can have this information, go to your servers, get some dump files, or take a look to your event viewer, and start relating all these together to have an approach of what is going on, what are your requirements, or how can you improve. And also, don't forget about the alerts. So this is a real good tool or feature that will keep you up to date about any potential outage on your infrastructure, on your environment. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So next one for Brian. Do the cloud instances of Director offer greater capability related end user experience monitoring without having to resort to third-party tools?
Yeah, so great question here. So the Cloud Director Monitor tab is right now currently being developed to provide the same feature set as the on-premise Director. So if you're familiar with that, that's the feature set that you should be expecting. There's some small deltas where features are still being added into Citrix Cloud, as well as there are features that are developed in Citrix Cloud that aren't available on on-premise components. So in general, when you're looking at Director, you should be expecting the on-prem Director feel. But in terms of more end-to-end visibility, we also have the ADM, Application Delivery Management Service, that's hosted in Citrix Cloud. So that gives you the visibility from a network perspective through a Citrix ADC gateway. So you get kind of end-to-end visibility of what the end user's network connection looks like to gateway, and then the actual performance and interaction once they're in the session with the Cloud Director. So that's our answer to address the kind of end-to-end scope and help you provide the kind of greatest visibility into that session. If there are additional capabilities in there that maybe not meeting your expectation, maybe you need to look towards a third-party solution, but we've seen a lot of customers able to get all of the metrics that they need through the capabilities that exist today.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Next question for Amir. Can I provide access to Studio Console to Citrix consultants even if they do not have a corporate account?
That's a good question, and it's a daily basis task that our customers face, and yes, the answer is yes. When you add an administrator, you have the option to send email-based invitation to any trusted user that you want to provide access to your console. And thinking about something that we discussed on the previous presentation about this delegated administration, this is where you can base all your decisions. So you can provide access to your, let's say, to your vendors, to someone that takes care of your infrastructure on the daily operations, but you don't want to have full control of your cloud or on-prem infrastructure because that's dangerous. So you can provide a individual access or custom access depending on machine catalog, delivery groups. You can specify all the access level that you want. So any kind, you decide who can access to your console, and you define how deep they can go on it. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Amir. So next one for Chris. Can I have multiple host connections, 3 Azure, 2 AWS?
Yes, thank you. So with regards to this question, the answer is yes. So in Citrix Cloud, we have the concept of something called a resource location. And a resource location is just a logical setting that you would install cloud connectors into. And when you create a resource location, there's also a linked zone created on the apps and desktop site that if you're an on-prem customer, you're probably familiar with today. So what the recommendation is from Citrix Cloud is you would create a resource location, which would also create a corresponding zone for each hypervisor type you want to use. So you could have one for on-prem, one for AWS, one for Azure, soon to be for Google Cloud as well. You would have your own cloud connectors installed to each resource location, and you could manage host connections between the Citrix Cloud service and those hypervisor types. And from there, the admin could manage all of that separately. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So going back to Amir, when trying to create a new machine catalog through MCS, it's grayed out. So what do I do?
Yep. And I would say let's go back to your permissions over the console. So probably you are not able to create machine catalogs. You have any restriction, you have a custom role as an administrator. So you just have to touch base with your Citrix admin and ask to give you access to what feature do you need, because probably you have like help desk permissions and you have higher ones to be able to spin up machines or assign resources or publish applications or virtual desktops. But basically, this is what is blocking you to create machine catalogs, all the permissions that you have.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Going back to Brian, can we integrate on-premise Citrix environments with the cloud instances of Studio and Director for greater analytics?
This is a good question, and unfortunately, it's not a capability that we have right now. We can think of your cloud instance as a separate, quote-unquote, Citrix site. So unfortunately, we don't have the ability to bring your on-prem sites into Cloud Studio or Director, but at the workspace level, you can go ahead and aggregate both your cloud instance as well as your on-prem sites to give users kind of access to all of their applications, whether they're on-prem or cloud hosted, all from a single pane of glass. So we do have that ability from the actual user perspective, but fortunately from the Citrix Cloud perspective, that's not a feature that we have.
All right, so back to Amir. Can I access configuration login DB?
Yep. The answer is it depends. By default, you cannot access to the configuration login database because remember that all the database and core infrastructure are now managed by Citrix. So there is no way to have access to that information, but if it's required, we can create a support ticket to our dev team and start digging on the information you required for legal purposes or any change that was made to your deployment as it is impacting you for sure. But this is something that that's one of the good things of the Citrix cloud managed infrastructure, that you don't have to administer a database or any component that it's time consuming and requires more skills. So just leave all that hard and boring administration to Citrix and just be ready to deploy apps and desktops and any other option inside the workspace world to your infrastructure, talking about share file or content collaboration or endpoint management as well. Thank you.
All right, so next up, back to Brian. Does the Citrix control plane align with CR or LTSR?
Kind of a trick question. So the answer technically is neither. However, the Citrix Cloud Control Plane aligns a lot closer with the LTS or the current release, the CR path. So as of right now, the current release path is following a approximately quarterly update cycle where new releases for on-prem components are released in versions like 1906, 1907, in line with our new naming conventions. However, Citrix Cloud updates are conducted more frequently, often as frequently as biweekly. They're conducted in a canary approach, where they're tested with a small subset of users before pushed out to the greater masses to make sure that there's limited, to validate some of the new changes and features before go out to everyone. But so the Citrix Cloud Control Plane is getting features more regularly, as well as they're getting features that aren't available on-prem. So you can assume it's more of a current release path, but it's not exactly the same release as what the latest current release is on-premise.
All right. So next up, we have back to Amir. Users are reporting intermittent problems with critical applications we host with Citrix Cloud. So how can I stay proactive in maintaining the availability of this application?
Yep, I would say this falls under the monitoring stuff, like going to your dashboard site and see how many failures do you have, all the network connection, how many sessions are on disconnected state as well. So you can identify if it is a single virtual server that is not working as expected, or it is a bigger outage. So first, I would go to the Studio Console, see if my VDAs are registered or they are on maintenance mode, or also if they are power on as well. After that, I would go to the monitor console and start getting some information, some filters about sessions, servers, and network latency as well. So I would make a mix of troubleshooting with Studio and monitor consoles and put all together and figure out what's going on. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So next up, we'll stick with Amir again. How can I troubleshoot VDA registration order of precedence to locate controllers?
Yep, that's a daily, and I like to say that a daily operations task for sure that we're going to be facing. And first, I would say validate communication with your cloud connector. Make sure that you can reach through, make it easy, just ping your domain controller, sorry, your cloud connector, also your domain controller, just to make sure that you don't have any issue with your domain. Or just also remember that you can have a difference on the time between your cloud connector and your VDA more than 5 minutes. It will break communication, and this time synchronization will not work. So this is a good point to review, and mostly when some policies apply or time-saving days are coming, and we have to figure out, because we are on different time zones and different GPOs under your Active Directory, so that can affect as well. Also, I would check what group policies are applied to my VDAs and see if there is something that it is blocking communication, and essentially take a look to your port 1494 or 2598 or the Citrix ports, and also check if your cloud connectors have communication with the Citrix cloud as well. If you want to go deeper, a good place to validate it's a registry key on your VDA called list of DDCs. There you will find the list of cloud connectors that are assigned to your VDA to register with the Citrix cloud. So basically what is going to happen is first your cloud connector, your VDA will check if that cloud connector names or FQDNs are specified on a group policy in your Active Directory. And if not, it will go to your list of DDCs. And if you have machines created with machine creation services, it will go to your personalities file as well. So make sure that on that list of DDCs registry key, they are listed, because this is a basic and usually where you can find the problem in your registration. What else would I say? Let's take a look to DNS resolution as well. Just confirm that you can resolve by IP and name as well. And I think it could be an overall validation that you can do as a first step. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So now we have a little bit of a fun one. So we'll give this one to Brian. So Brian, what is your favorite new feature?
All right, yeah, this is a fun one. So this is a good question. So a feature that was just released in June here, a month ago, that I've been waiting for, and I know a lot of customers that I've worked with have been waiting for, is the tagging feature. So tagging allows you to tag specific machines or applications that you want to maybe either just publish out like a single machine out of a machine catalog, or use tags to complete certain tasks for specific machines within the machine catalog or delivery group. I know one big reason to use tagging is from a reboot schedule perspective. So you can maybe tag all of the even machines and reboot them on a different day from the odd machines within a delivery group. So tagging now live in cloud virtual apps and desktops. So be on the lookout for that and give it a whirl.
All right, very cool. All right, and right now is the last one, so we're about to wrap it up. So if you have any other questions, be sure to submit them now. So we'll send this one to Amir. 3 options. I'm not even sure if this is a question, but 3 options to search for a user session.
Sure, absolutely. And you have it right away on your dashboard. if you click on your sessions, just on your left hand of the dashboard, it will show up all the sessions that you have, and then you can apply like a filter there depending on the conditions you want. Started with probably a letter of the name or a machine name, stuff like that. Also, you will have the filter tab as well. There you will have access to all your infrastructure, and you can filter by session or by machine as well. And last but not least, you will have the search tab as well, where you can enter the username or machine name, and you will get all the information from that point. And if you want to go to take a look what is happening inside that specific session, you just have to click on it, and you can go as deep as you want, to the point that you can monitor what processes are running on that specific PDA. So that's a very helpful and important way to troubleshoot sessions. So you can identify what process is consuming high resources, and you can take decisions, or at least you can contact the end user or that specific team and say, hey, this user is running a process that is consuming a lot of resources, so it is consuming all my memory or CPU, and they internally can go and just to confirm if they are running a report or anything that it's blocking other users to work as should be. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Well, that is all the questions that we have in our queue, so we'll call it a wrap. I appreciate everyone submitting your questions, and thank you so much to all the panelists for taking time to help answer all of these. So keep an eye out for a blog write-up of the Q&A, and then we'll also have the on-demand video available on the registration page probably in about a week or so. And then be sure to register for our next meetup on Wednesday, August 21st, and the topic will be authentication. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.